What up, do everybody? This your boy Tay Biz. We are back with a Mark Sanchez update. Here you saw the thumbnail on this video. You see that we do have the lawsuit that was filed. It's now been released, and we are able to actually take a look at this, take a gander at it, and read this particular case. For those of you who don't know, Mark Sanchez was here in Indianapolis, Indiana, on over the weekend because he was going to cover the game for the Indianapolis Colts and for the Las Vegas Raiders. However, early Sunday morning at about 12:30 in the morning, there was a situation where he allegedly approached a gentleman by the name of Perry Tole, who was at the Marriott downtown hotel, minutes away from the office that I work out of. And he was doing his duty. He's a truck driver. He picks up old oil and reused or recooked oil from various places. He picks it up in the truck, and then he disperses it wherever he disperses it at, okay? And so he was doing his job. Mark Sanchez approaches this man. The man says in the probable cause affidavit, he states that Mark Sanchez was reeking or smelling like a stench of alcohol, things of that nature. And Mark Sanchez, not only did he approach the man for no reason, but also allegedly he got into the man's vehicle because he was telling him to move his vehicle from where it was parked. And so the man is doing his job. He pepper sprayed Mark Sanchez. It looked like it had no effect on him at all. And then the man pulls out a knife and he stabs Mark Sanchez several times in the chest. But also because Mark Sanchez was assaulting this man, and the pictures I did not show the pictures on the channel last time, but I will put the link in the description, and you get a chance to see the photos of the man in the hospital. All right, and so he has a laceration, about a 6-inch laceration to his cheek. There was a knife that went through his cheek all the way to his tongue. Okay. And so he had neck issues. He has a neck brace. He also has a bum jaw as well because of the situation. So this is a full-on assault attack situation between Mark Sanchez and Perry Tole. All right. Now, Perry Tole is 69 years old. All right. So not only is Mark Sanchez assaulting a man, but a man that is 69 years old. And there are some here in Indiana, if you assault someone that's over the age of 65, the charges the sentence can actually increase due to the fact that you are causing bodily harm to someone that is an elder. He had 3 misdemeanors. Those misdemeanors, one of those charges now became a level 5 felony. All right. And so we're going to get into a video a little bit later in this video. We're going to see what happens after Mr. Tole's injury become a little bit more severe. Let's say, for instance, his tongue has a paralysis on one side, or his face has paralysis on one side. And, it increases from serious bodily harm to something that that impacts him for the rest of his life. That charge can go from level 5 on up. All right. So Ryan Mears is the district attorney of the county of Marion. And so we're going to look at an interview that he did on News Nation a little bit later in this video. But let's get started and let's go ahead and get into this lawsuit. All right. So it says here that state of Indiana, county of Marion, Perry Tole plaintiff versus Mark Sanchez and Fox Corporation. Now, what is he saying? Why is Fox involved in this? Well, Mark Sanchez is an employee of Fox Corporation under Fox Sports division. Okay. And so he was coming to this town as an analyst, as a color commentator for the game. All right. He was replaced by Brian Greasy because he was locked up. He was arrested. Not only arrested, but not locked up in jail, but locked up in the hospital because Mark Sanchez was in the hospital and arrested. And then he had to pay a cash bond of $300. And then he was able to get released, I would say, in the meantime. But there's a new charge, a felony charge on him as well for causing major bodily harm to this particular man. And now it went from that to serious bodily injury. Okay. So that's why he was Fox is involved. So Perry Tole is suing Fox for negligent hiring and retention and supervision. Okay. And so we're going to get into that a little bit. All right. We're going to get into that a little bit, but let's go ahead and check this out here. It says complaint for damages and jury trial demand comes now the plaintiff Perry Tole by counsel Eric J. May of Galitko and Daily PC, and for his complaint for damages and jury trial demand against the defendants Mark Sanchez and Fox Corporation, and states as follows. All right. The jurisdiction, this court has jurisdiction over this matter pursuant to the laws of the state of Indiana, as the events giving rise to this complaint occurred in Indianapolis, Marion County, Indiana, downtown. Literally, my office is walking distance from the Marriott Hotel. All right. Plaintiff Perry Tole is the individual that resided in the state of Indiana who was the victim of the action described herein. Defendant Mark Sanchez, hereinafter referred to as Sanchez, is an individual who, upon information and belief, resides in the state of California and was involved in the incident described herein. Defendant Fox Corporation is a foreign corporation that, upon information and belief, is incorporated in the state of Delaware and is the employer of defendant Sanchez. So this is important because Fox is the one that sends Sanchez out to different states and cities to cover the NFL. Okay, because Mark Sanchez is a well-known former quarterback of the NFL. He played for the New York Jets and he played for the Washington Commanders, where they were the Redskins at the time. So he is very much well known when it comes to the NFL, who knows him and all that kind of stuff. Is he a celebrity? I wouldn't say he's necessarily a celebrity, but he's a well-known figure. All right. Defendant Sanchez is an employee of the defendant Fox Corporation. Defendant Sanchez traveled to the state of Indiana as part of his employment duties for the defendant Fox Corporation and the television broadcast of the NFL football game involving the Indianapolis Colts and Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday, October the 5th, 2025. At all times relevant, plaintiff Perry Tole was performing his duties as an employee of a company specializing in commercial cooking oil recycling and disposal at the loading dock area of the Westin Hotel. I'm sorry, I thought it was a Marriott, but Westin Hotel, when he was approached by defendant Sanchez. Defendant Sanchez, appearing intoxicated, instigated an altercation with plaintiff Perry Tole, claiming that plaintiff Perry Tole could not be at the location and that defendant Sanchez had spoken to the hotel manager. So here it is, Perry Tole minding his business doing this thing, and he gets approached by Mark Sanchez. Okay. During the interaction, defendant Sanchez attempted to enter and later entered plaintiff Tole's work truck. Okay. Without permission and blocked plaintiff Perry Tole from accessing his cell phone to contact his manager. So he's trying to block Tole from even utilizing his phone. The situation escalated when defendant Sanchez physically blocked and shoved plaintiff Perry Tole, leading plaintiff to use pepper spray in self-defense. Despite the use of pepper spray in the self-defense, Sanchez continued to advance towards Tole, resulting in a physical altercation, which resulted in plaintiff Perry Tole suffering significant injuries to his head, jaw, and neck. On October the 4th, 2025, at approximately 12:35 a.m., so that's actually Saturday early, because Saturday morning, actually, officers from Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, IMPD, were dispatched to 301 West Washington Street, Indianapolis, Indiana. Upon arrival, officers found plaintiff Tole bleeding profusely and severely injured. Okay. Defendant Sanchez was subsequently arrested for battery, unlawful entry to a motor vehicle, and public intoxication. All right. So here are now the claims. All right. The claims are now count one, assault battery. Plaintiff Perry Tole incorporates by reference the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 14 as if fully set forth herein. All right. Defendant Sanchez intentionally and unlawfully made harmful and offensive contact with Perry Tole, causing serious bodily injury. That's the level 5 felony now. Defendant Sanchez's actions constitute malicious, willful, wanton, and or grossly negligent conduct. As a direct and proximate result of defendant Sanchez's actions, Perry Tole suffered severe permanent disfigurement, loss of function. See, here we go. Other physical injuries, emotional distress, and other damages. Now, remember, I just mentioned about the fact that there is a possibility that the level 5 will increase to levels of like 3, maybe even 2. Just it all depends on the DA, the prosecution, how they want to do this charge. Okay, so this is very, very, very interesting when it comes to this particular case. Count 2: negligent hiring, retention, and supervision. Now, here we go. Now, let's break down what this actually is, okay? And let's see if Perry Tole has a point here. Because again, not only are they suing Mark Sanchez, but they're also suing his employer, Fox, because to be quite frank, he was here because of Fox. He was not here because he was taking a tour and trying to get to know the city. All right. He was here on some business. So what is negligent hiring? All right. And retention. Here we go. So looked it up real quick here. It says negligent hiring and retention occur when an employer continues to employ a dangerous or unfit worker or hires such a worker after knowing or having reason to know that the individual poses a risk to others, leading to harm caused by that employee. Okay, that's a very important thing. Knowing or having reason to know, right? Employers are liable for the harm because they fail to take appropriate action, such as a proper background check, disciplinary measures, or termination to address the foreseeable risk of injury. The question is, does that apply to Fox? Did Fox know or have any reason to know that Mark Sanchez would do something like this? Okay, that's the question. Negligent hiring. All right. An employer fails to conduct a thorough background check or take reasonable steps to investigate a candidate's fitness for a job, and then hires an individual who later harms someone due to their unsustainability for the role. Now, I'm not sure of Mark Sanchez's background and what he has done before, but I personally have not ever seen anything where he was like in the news, he did something crazy or anything of that nature, anything public. All right. Has he done something in California locally that I may not know anything about? That's possible. But we do not know his background per se. I don't know if he was ever arrested before. I don't know if this is his first offense or anything of that nature. I'm not sure. Maybe we might have to do some research on that. But this is the case where this is important for the defense. Like, what was the background check process? Has he ever had any issues? Did Fox know about it? And did they hire him anyway? It's a lot of times where even when you look at certain things like Michael Vick, when Michael Vick was hired to be an analyst before, they did a background check. They knew what his background was. They knew what happened with the dog case, the whole nine. He was still hired, right? But they knew that, okay, this is not a repeat offense. It wasn't really what they said it was. As we evaluate this, we're seeing some things that we could say, hey, it's safe for us to hire Michael Vick. And it basically was, because Michael Vick never hurt a person. All right. Michael Vick never hurt or harmed anybody. All right. So this is a case where Mark Sanchez is hurting someone, assaulting someone, and he's working for a corporation like Fox, which is a well-known corporation. All right. Negligent retention. An employer becomes aware that an existing employee poses a risk or harm to others through a history of violence, harassment, or misconduct, but continues to employ them without taking proper corrective action. Has that ever happened before? that is something that the plaintiff will have to take a look at. They might have some information. Hey, Sanchez has a history of being intoxicated publicly, and you all knew about it, and you sent him out there anyway. Okay. So they would have a point in this particular lawsuit. I don't know the amount of money that they're suing for. I mean, of course, it's punitive damages and things of that nature. So, some money is involved. I'm not sure how much. All right. Key aspects for establishing liabilities. So, to prove a claim of negligent hiring or retention, a plaintiff generally needs to show that first, the employee was unfit, the employee was unstable or unsuitable for their job and posed a risk. The employer's knowledge also has to be established. The employer knew or have known or should have known about this person's unfitness or dangerous propensities. All right. The harm occurred. The employee's unsuitability or dangerous behavior caused injury to the plaintiff. So that's another part of negligent hiring and retention. The harm occurred. You knew the harm occurred. You still kept them. All right. Employer's negligence was a factor where the employer's failure to take any appropriate action, like proper vetting, monitoring, or termination, was a substantial factor in causing the harm. As of right now, I don't even have any type of information that says, you know what, Mark Sanchez is suspended at this point. Okay. Mark Sanchez is, he's no longer with Fox. Like, nothing like that has happened yet. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's go back to the case. So it says here that plaintiff Tole incorporates by reference the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 18 as if full set forth herein. So this is the negligent hiring part here. A defendant, Fox Corporation, owed a duty of care to plaintiff to ensure that its employees conducted themselves in a reasonable manner. Okay, here we go. Owed a duty of care to the plaintiff. That's a very strong word. That's very strong wording, in my opinion. Right. Owed a duty of care. I'm not sure if that is what I would have necessarily said. However, Mark said that Fox Sports have a responsibility to make sure that their employees are suitable for the job in all aspects, not just in the actual description of the work, but also with the actual camaraderie of who they are as a person, how they conduct themselves, and things of that nature, right? So if they have a certain type of behavior within the corporation, a well-known type of reputation in the corporation, and it's negative, and they don't do anything about it, that is a serious problem. So then if you send that person out to another city to do color commentating for an NFL game on a Sunday, then the care that you are owing other citizens is saying that, hey, we care about you all enough to know that we hired the right person for the job with the soft skills as well as the physical skills of what we need. That is something that, can it be proven? Can it be, proven in this particular case? It's quite possible. Owed a duty of care. I'm not sure if I would use those words, but that is a very strong wording. So it could perk up the actual judge, who's ever going to be the judge, and perk up their sentence on, whether that might be true or not. Defendant Fox Corporation knew or should have known about defendant Sanchez's unfitness as an employee, propensity for drinking and or harmful conduct. Okay, that is very true. Despite this knowledge or the availability of this knowledge, defendant Fox Corporation hired defendant Sanchez as an employee, retained defendant Sanchez as an employee, and or failed to supervise Sanchez in his capacity as an employee of defendant Fox Corporation. Defendant Fox Corporation breached its duty of care, plaintiff Perry Tole, as set forth above, because they neglected Sanchez. Sanchez having a history of drinking or public intoxication. Again, I have not seen anything publicly about it. However, it could have been something that was addressed within the corporation and no one ever really knew about it. As a direct or proximate result of defendant Fox Corporation's negligent hiring, retention, and or failure to supervise his employee, defendant Sanchez, plaintiff Perry Tole, suffered severe permanent disfigurement, loss of function, other physical injuries, emotional distress, and other damages. Prayer for relief. Wherefore, plaintiff Perry Tole, by counsel, respectfully requests that this court enter judgment in his favor and against defendant Sanchez and Fox Corporation and award the following relief: compensatory damages, in an amount to be determined at trial, punitive damages in an amount to be determined at trial, costs and expenses of this action, including reasonable attorney's fees, and other relief that the court deems just and proper. Again, this man is 69 years of age. Okay. It says respectfully submitted by the plaintiff's lawyers, Galitko and Daily PC. All right. Now, what we're going to do right now is go ahead and look at the interview that was conducted by News Nation, where they talked to Ryan Mears, who is the DA, one of the DA for the Marion County, and they're going to talk about charges that may increase a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look.
So, Mr. DA, could more charges be on the way? You've already upgraded the charges, the misdemeanors to felonies. Might there be more?
Yeah, so one of the things in the state of Indiana is you can actually upgrade the battery charge from a level 5 felony to a level 3 felony if you have what is known as permanent or protracted loss. And that's one of those situations where you're looking for a healthcare provider, a doctor in particular, to be able to provide that diagnosis and say, what's the long-term impact of these injuries and how is it going to impact the victim? And so those are our conversations that we'll have with the treating physicians, the doctors involved with this in this case, and that'll help us make that ultimate charging decision.
So if these injuries, these stab wounds and the cuts to the face and right through the cheek to the tongue, if these are permanent injuries, the felony charges will be upgraded to more serious felonies, is what you're saying.
That's correct. And so we're waiting for a doctor to kind of confirm and provide us with that information.
So have you learned anything more from other witnesses or other surveillance video from the hotel? And does the hotel video, the surveillance video you've already seen, confirm everything the truck driver told you about what happened?
Well, where this particular incident occurred was very well covered by surveillance footage. I mean, you have surveillance footage from multiple businesses that are in the area. It took place in an alley between two separate hotels that also had pretty robust surveillance systems. And then there's actually surveillance footage from the truck itself. And so we had really a number of different camera angles which captured most of what took place on this particular day. And, you know, we had an opportunity to speak with the victim. The victims never had the opportunity to review any of the surveillance footage that we just referenced. And it very clearly corresponded to the video that we were watching, which certainly lended credibility to the victim's version of what took place.
Have you spoken to Mark Sanchez?
No, I mean, we're legally prohibited from doing that. You know, certainly he's got an absolute right against self-incrimination.
But detectives can ask him what happened, right?
Well, but I think it's important to remember he was significantly injured in this particular incident. And so when medical personnel arrived on scene, their focus is trying to offer help and make sure that they're in a position to offer as much assistance as possible. And so someone has to be in a position to offer a statement. And so in both of these situations, with both the victim and Mr. Sanchez, they were immediately taken into medical treatment. They received pretty significant medical treatment. So individuals weren't in a position to provide a statement.
And I'm curious, have you done toxicology? The truck driver says that Mark Sanchez smelled strongly of alcohol, but his behavior, I mean, there are reports from witnesses that he was running wind sprints in the alley. This is midnight Friday night. It's very odd behavior. Was he on drugs of some kind?
Well, that's one of the things that we're going to continue to look into. You know, it's protected health information, so it's not something where we can just go to the doctor's office and get that information. There's a process for acquiring that information. That's exactly what the detectives are doing right now. And once we receive that information, we're hoping that it enhances our understanding of exactly what took place on this day and why this set of circumstances unfolded the way that it did in the early morning of Saturday.
If he decided to drink himself silly that night, he's legally responsible for whatever he did under the influence. But if somebody drugged him against his knowledge or will, would that be a mitigating circumstance? Would you consider dropping charges, or how does that work?
So in Indiana, voluntary intoxication is never a defense, meaning that if you're ever
Correct.
engaged
But what about involuntary drugging?
Yeah, then I think that becomes a little bit of a more difficult question. That's a more fact-sensitive inquiry in terms of how was an individual drugged, and what evidence would we have to support that the individual was drugged, as opposed to voluntarily making the decision to consume alcohol or anything else. And so that would be a conversation certainly we would have if we received that information. But at this point in time, that's not something that has been brought to our attention.
Right, because the truck driver says he not only pulled out a knife and stabbed Sanchez twice, but that he sprayed him with pepper spray. I mean, it's pretty amazing that any human being can, be pepper sprayed directly in the face and stabbed and still keep coming.
Well, certainly there was quite a bit of resistance involved in this case. And I think it also speaks to the seriousness of the altercation. You have both individuals who sustained pretty significant injuries, which I think highlights just the nature and extent of this confrontation that took place between these two individuals.
Wow, it's an incredible thing that happened. And you are not, by the way, was the truck driver stabbed with his own knife? Did Mark Sanchez get it away from him? Like what gave him that cut on his cheek?
That's one of the things that everybody's still trying to determine is the exact sequence of what took place. Certainly, it is our position that as a result of this confrontation, that the victim sustained these injuries and that the victim was acting in self-defense. And so because of that, we are comfortable with the charging choices that we've made to this point, and we'll continue to evaluate this case as we receive more evidence.
Yeah, it's worth reminding our viewers that Indiana has very strong stand your ground self-defense laws, which is why the truck driver has not been charged with any criminal charges in this case, correct?
Yes, and it's important to note that in Indiana, you have no duty to retreat, and It's whether or not your fear was reasonable. And certainly what's the allegation here is you have a 69-year-old man who was confronted by a 38-year-old former professional athlete, and he indicated that he was in fear for his safety. And certainly that satisfies the self-defense statute.
All right, so that was a very, very interesting interview. Okay, so I think things are going to escalate a little bit more than what they are now. Again, the misdemeanors are still standing, but also they added the level 5 felony. I truly believe that it's probably going to get bumped up to another level. That's just my opinion. I don't have any evidence to back that up, but based upon the way the laws are here in Indiana, if, again, like Ryan Meir said, if you have injuries based upon an assault or an attack, and those injuries become permanent, they become injuries that, again, disfigurement or your speech gets impacted and things of that nature, when normally you wouldn't have a speech impediment or any type of speech discomfort, then those things can go up. Again, this man's age plays another part in the fact that these charges can be up as well. So not only is it that according to the man's outcome and how he is now, and what that will do to him if he's going to have any type of permanent damages, his age is a huge factor as well. Also, what's another, to me, a key piece to me, even though a lot of people may overlook it, but Mark Sanchez entered into the man's vehicle without permission, which triggered the man to have to take care of that by putting his hands on Mark Sanchez and telling him not to do that, get out my truck. He was at work, okay? He was working at the time. So you cannot go inside a person's vehicle as well, because first of all, you can't, it's illegal for you to be in anybody's vehicle and it's not yours. That's number one. So I truly believe that if they do have a toxicology report, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get more than some alcohol. This, look, you get pepper spray and nothing, you don't feel anything almost, and then on top of that, you drink it too. I'm expecting some type of drug. I'm expecting some type. I don't know if it's gonna be cocaine. I don't know if it's going to be a meth situation. I don't know what Mark Sanchez is into, but apparently this gentleman has a private life. All right. And so now it's on full display. I'm not sure what this is, and maybe we should take a deep dive into some things about Mark Sanchez that we may not know about, and we might come across some stuff that would surprise us. But this is very, very interesting that, you know, a lot of this is predicated upon the outcome of the man's injuries that he suffered, whether or not these charges can get a little bit more serious. And so, like he said, level 3. And I'm not sure what the sentencing is for a level 3 felony of this kind. But definitely is going to be more than just, you know, the level 5, which is 1 to 6 years, I believe. It's going to be way more than that, probably, you know. And so, again, this is a very, very interesting case. Now, remember, there was supposed to be a hearing on Tuesday that just passed. However, Mark Sanchez waived his appearance to appear before court because he wants to have a pretrial conference. So the pretrial conference and hearing is November the 4th. I believe it's at 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. or something like that. So there is going to be a pretrial hearing, and Mark Sanchez will be in attendance for that. So we will keep our ear to the ground when it comes to that. Again, I actually live here in Indianapolis, so I'm very, very interested in how this plays out, because also there's some type of political energy going on around this thing as well that has been mentioned here in the local news. So maybe I'll get some local news stuff here too as well, and we'll take a gander at that too. But in the meantime, in between time, man, I'm your boy Tay Biz. Let me know what you think in the comments. Go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Share this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Mark Sanchez is at fault for this, or do you think the old man is at fault for this? Do you think the detectives are doing their job diligently? Do you think this Ryan Mears DA person is legit? Let me know what you think. All right. I'm your boy Tay Biz, man. Peace.